Hello, Garland Nixon here, hanging out with Matt Weinglass. He is in Southern Cal. We're going to get an update on what's happening in Hollywood and lots more. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, hanging out with Matt Weinglass. He is in Southern Cal, and speaking of which, I just got a new camera, and I realized something about this business. I got a new camera, and I'm like, man, that is it's clear and it's better. And I've researched which webcam to get, and I got one, and I got it, and then I did my first show, and then I looked at it, and I'm like, oh man, I look like crap. I should go to the old, you get the new camera and every wrinkle and everything bad. You're like, oh my God, it's like maybe I'll just have an old fuzzy camera where people can make out the outline of my face and suspect it's who I am. But, a really nice camera has its good points and its bad points, if you know what I mean.
It does. And we have the same issue we're doing our show, trying to figure out the best look. And, I got to say, the StreamYard technology isn't caught up quite to the ability of the camera technology yet. So we're waiting for StreamYard to catch up, and I think it might work out some kinks. But we got to trial and error it sometimes, Garland.
Yes. All right. Speaking of which, let's start with a couple of things here. But update. Something we talked about the last time we got together. Trump said he's doing these tariffs on movies, and then apparently my take was this: he really knew nothing about it. This whole thing, the dynamics, and it was just like, they're making movies overseas, and that's costing us money. We're gonna tariff them. We'll show them tariffs for everybody, movie tariffs. And then people involved in the industry were like, not so fast there, Speedy. You got big problems. I haven't heard much else. It sounds like it was a lot of bluster and bravado, but I don't think anything's going to materialize of it. I felt that way at the beginning. Trump's big for that. What's your update? Maybe I'm wrong. What do we know about alleged tariffs on 100% or something on overseas movies?
So the 100% tariffs, you're right about that. This is something that I was with you, Garland. I said there's no way this is going to continue and actually make it to the destination. But Trump wanted to do this 100%. The only reason it's maybe feels like it's stalled out, and I haven't seen any update yet this morning. We'll see what goes on this week. But I'm thinking my best guess is that somebody close to him came to him and said, this doesn't make any sense. This model that you're doing on these other areas, it doesn't make sense for filmmaking. It really, everyone's going to suffer. Nobody wins. Not even the studios win. I mean, we did a whole segment on this where it was like the independent filmmaker is going to suffer the most, because the way filmmaking works when you're trying to figure out how to shoot your film is you work off of incentives. It's the opposite of tariffs, which we know are punishment. So if you're going to throw this punishment kind of this approach to something that filmmakers are we just have this history of who can give us the best deal. So you go around, you do location scouting, you figure out what state's giving you the best, cash rebates, the tax incentives, and you go to other countries. Of course, you go to other countries and you figure out what kind of accommodations are there. So you're going to now start this tariff war in Hollywood. Everyone's going to lose. So I'm hoping somebody close to him right now is saying, you got to look in this a little more. This model doesn't make sense, and so hopefully it just kind of goes away, and we'll write it off as it was just a kind of scare tactic. But I do believe he really wanted to do it. When he puts those Truth Social posts out, he means it until he doesn't. But at the moment, I think when he went out, he certainly meant doing it.
Well, it's kind of like hip hop in a way, or music. I've known of like music stars or hip hop stars, various artists that were American, right? And here, nobody's buying their stuff. And you find out that the guy's overseas making millions. You're like, how's this guy make all this money? Nobody ever heard of him. And he's not even really that good. And they're like, yeah, but he goes to these other countries and they like him, right? A lot of movies. A movie, you might make a documentary, any kind of movie, it may not be big here. And it may hit in a couple other countries or another region and make a fortune. You start getting in battles with these people and they're like, oh yeah, well, you're going to tariff our movies? Well, we won't show any more American movies. And the next thing you know, some people who may have a smaller operation and put something together that may not hit big in here, may put something together that hits in, and they make a lot of money in other countries, but it really would have done well here. And you start closing the door to some of these smaller operations, which oftentimes, come to think of it, wait a minute, hurting the little guy and helping the big guy. A lot of that. Anyway, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, this is, so look, I think a lot of the general public doesn't fully understand what does it mean when we're talking about a U.S. film versus a foreign film. These are still American films that are being shot in other places. You kind of have to pick and choose how you're going to go about your production. So a lot of times you'll shoot your production in Canada. You might edit in another country. You bring stuff back home for other post production for visual effects. You might go somewhere else. So you kind of go. It's generally like it's a community approach as far as all the different places are going to help out with the best. It's all about the best incentives. So when you bring that back home, you obviously are going for the American release. You're going for the streaming release. You're still trying to get theatrical release, but all these different boxes have to be checked. And so a lot of the times, so Trump doesn't understand this at all. He doesn't understand the model of you go to different locations to get the best deal for your film. And like you're saying, Garland, about the independent filmmaker, they're going to lose the most on this if this actually happens, because why are you wanting to start a tariff war and say you can't, if you're going to shoot over here, you can't bring your film. We're not going to. It's like, that's not how it works. We all want to make films. They say, as a filmmaker, getting any one film made at all is just a plain miracle on its own. Right. So now you're going to add in this extra element. It's not going to work. It's going to fall apart. Just like we noticed all the films that fell apart during COVID. It's like, once you start punishing people and saying, if somebody on your set gets this, we're gonna have to, fine you, tax you, close down production. That's the worst thing. By the way, it's the worst thing that can happen to an independent film team is getting shut down for whatever reason. You broke a rule, shut down. This actor has COVID, shut down. That costs massive amount of money to have to reschedule everything, all the hundreds of people involved, and get another thing locked in. That's going to take another months and months to figure out how do we make up for this. And so these are the kind of roadblocks that make a miracle of making a film turn into an absolute impossibility at that point. So this is the lesson I hope Trump is learning right now, and I hope we don't hear any more updates about this, because we got enough to worry about in Hollywood right now, Garland. As you know, we're moving filmmaking outside here anyways. We have other opportunities for the independent filmmaker in other areas. We've talked on the show before about those opportunities coming up, but we have so many things we're dealing with here, like the AI problem and the residual problem on streaming services that the actors and the workers aren't getting. So there's a lot of problems anyways. We don't need another problem, a tariff problem that doesn't benefit anyone.
Yeah. Well, I remember, after in the early 2000s, I worked for the governor's office doing this Homeland Security Coordination, anti-terrorism stuff here in Maryland. I remember when they were they're filming somewhere, right? You had to have law enforcement officers to shut these roads down. They had to get permits and all this stuff. But Maryland had this film industry of the government area, and their job was to attract movie people here to make movies and then make it as easy as possible for them. But it could still be quite expensive. You had to have a bunch of cops blocking the roads and security and all these other things. So it can get expensive to do just for the jurisdiction in the region to make sure everything's, clear and open, and all that has to be done. Fire trucks might have to be there, ambulances in case something happens, all of these things. And sometimes they want an ambulance on scene when they're doing stunts. Stuff gets expensive. And to have to reschedule that, I wouldn't want to be the one that had to do that. Even not just the film people, but to be the person, like when I was working for the governor's office, for somebody to call me and say, all right, they rescheduled for next week. And I'm like, holy crap, I got 50 cops. I got 4 ambulances. I got fire trucks. I got this. I got that. I got, you know what I mean? We've contacted the airport because things are going on over top of it, and we've got into their drones can't fly above a certain height. All of that crap, millions. Yep. Anyway, speaking of which, let's talk about films being filmed overseas. Gal Gadot, the beloved former Israeli IDF soldier who is now the darling of Hollywood. Well, apparently she ain't the darling of everywhere. What's going on with Gal Gadot?
Yeah, so apparently Gal's been shooting this film. They try to keep some of these A-list films like Gal Gadot doing a less than Marvel movie or less than DC movie. They try to keep it under wraps as long as possible. But we already know the film. We've looked at it. We know some of the components. It's called The Runner. They've been shooting it in London, or trying to shoot it at least. They've had some problems. So we're seeing that the protesters in the streets in London have figured out where they're shooting this, and they're making it a point to show up at any possible moment and interrupt production. And good for them for doing this. This is and why are they interrupting this? It's because Gal Gadot, like you said, Garland, she's been Hollywood little sweetheart. She just got her little star on Hollywood Boulevard after one of her worst performances of her career. And nobody gets a star on Hollywood Boulevard after just 10 years in the industry. But apparently, if you're a former IDF soldier, and I say former lightly because you're never really a former IDF soldier once you are an IDF soldier, but she certainly had a great time posting all on her social media with her guns and all the stuff she was doing when she was out in Lebanon killing who knows who she was killing out there in 2006. Being a leader, a teacher, she was an instructor. So the people don't know this, but people now are figuring this out, and they're like, why hasn't this person denounced any of this? Well, because she still believes it, supports it. She's part of this. And like you said, as the Hollywood sweetheart, getting her Hollywood Walk of Fame star on Hollywood Boulevard. Now she's shooting this movie in London. The protesters are out there in droves. And so we've seen the production now. So we talk about productions being shut down. I have to say, I love watching this production get shut down. Generally, I say, I don't like hurting the film worker. I know there's people on set that are counting on this job, but they have to understand that they're part of a film where their A-list actor, Gal Gadot, this film called The Runner, this film needs to be challenged. And it is. And it's been happening over and over. So the last time, just in the last few hours, it was shut down again. They were shooting in Moorgate Station, and they got the general public was allowed up to a certain point. So they turn around. They're filming, and all these different TikTok videos have gone up. They're making a lot of noise. They're saying, you support genocide, you support killing babies. This has to stop, and they have to shut the production down. And again, I generally don't like seeing productions being shut down, as we were just talking about, Garland. But in this case, this is where the protesters' voice needs to be heard. And you know what? Good for them for getting it done. And Gal Gadot is reportedly extremely furious, and she's fuming about this. And you know what? That's what she gets.
Good. Excellent. Hopefully she'll be furious and fuming a lot more in the future. The thing about it is, let me just say this. I've told many people, my brother, who's since passed away of prostate cancer a couple of years ago, but he was Jewish. He converted to Judaism when he was in the U.S. military. And one of his very, very close friends was former IDF. But guess what? The guy denounced it. The guy was former IDF, and as he got older, he said, I didn't realize, I was young, and this is what they told me, and I didn't know, and blah, blah, blah. And now, and he was like my brother. He was very opposed to Zionism, and he felt that, these things are very, very bad for Jews worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of Jewish people, right? So, it's one thing if you're former IDF and you say, for instance, let me give you an example. One of the things that conservatives love to say is about Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd was a former Klansman, and he's a Democrat. No, I hate both parties, but I liked Robert Byrd. I met Robert Byrd before. Here's why. So he was a former Klansman. He came out and talked about, man, that was terrible. And, I was young. I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And I opposed it. And he changed his stance on life. If you want to see something really beautiful, anybody, go find Robert Byrd's speech prior to the 2001 invasion of Iraq. Man, he just laid it out perfectly. He was a former Klansman. He changed his life. He changed his thoughts, and he became a really good guy, and I really liked him. But people say he was a former Klansman. Well, okay, so what? I mean, who amongst us can't look in our past and find something that we'd say, in hindsight, I always tell people, when I was in Anne Arundel Community College, I played basketball in community college, right? And one of the things in the locker room, we were stupid. I was 19 years old, right? Yeah, you're a gay rights activist. That was like a pejorative thing. Gay rights, you stupid gay rights. That's what that's how you put down other guys in the locker room. You're a gay rights guy, right? In hindsight, well, that was wrong. I had no idea what I was really saying.
Mm.
I didn't really know the whole gay rights thing. I had no concept of 19 years. So somebody could come back and say, well, look what Garland said. He was anti-gay. In theory, I guess I was, because I was saying it, but I didn't have a concept of what I was saying. And now that once I grew up, I'm like, yeah, that was pretty screwed up. You know what I mean? But many of us amongst us can look at our past and say we've said things or done things. But as you said with Gal Gadot, instead of saying to the crowd, you know what, I'm former IDF, she wouldn't have had to say it. If she'd have come out and said, you know, I'm former IDF, and in hindsight, what I did and what I stood for was wrong, and, you know, I've changed and I'm opposed to the genocide, blah, blah, blah. You know what? There wouldn't be any protesters if she did that. There wouldn't be one single protester. In fact, she'd be somewhere protesting. But you know, the other sorry, sad part of it, she wouldn't have that part. That's the only reason I saw part of that Snow White movie, I couldn't watch the whole thing, and I realized something. It wasn't that she had a bad day. It's that she's not a very good actress. You know what I mean? It's not like some guy shooting foul shots. For some reason, he's missing all of his foul shots today. No, Shaq was a great Hall of Famer, but Shaq couldn't shoot foul shots. He didn't have a bad day shooting foul shots. Shaq couldn't shoot foul shots. She's not a good actress. In fact, I would go further and say she's a bad actress. How the hell does somebody with a lack of skills like Gal Gadot get these kind of jobs? Oh, wait a minute. I think I know the answer.
Oh yeah, and she fooled a lot of people. Just the fact that we didn't know the history. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, let's be honest, Garland. We weren't talking about. I mean, I don't mean we as in you and me, but people weren't talking about Palestine before October 7th. Now they are. So they see things they didn't see before, and that's great. We need that. We've obviously need that over this last year and a half. But with Gal Gadot, like not taking these roles where she doesn't really talk much, she fooled a lot of people that she could act. The more they give her lines, the more it turns out she can't act. And then a role like this, people are saying, like, look, if she can't nail the witch in Snow White, the literally the character who's occupying the rest of the kingdom, like, it's like, if you can't do the thing that's closest to your life convincingly, you're in the wrong profession. So I think that was a big giveaway on that performance. You're right. Wasn't a bad day. She just sucks. And then as far as her speaking out or not speaking out, let's be clear so your audience understands, she's not just staying silent. She is actively speaking out and saying that anti-Semitism is our biggest problem. And as an Israeli, I have to speak out on the biggest problem right now, which is anti-Semitism. She's doing that right now. That is why the protesters are extra furious at her. You didn't just keep your mouth shut, you doubled down. And so this is why we're going to disrupt your film. And if you're a producer or the director or you're an investor on this film, you better think twice next time before you put money down on something like this, where your lead actor is saying stuff that we know history is not going to be fond of. And it's not fond of now. It doesn't need to wait for history. It's right now. You don't want to be associated with a film like that. And that's the message that is being, I guess, received loud and clear. So again, good for the protesters for doing this. And
that's another, to me, I would think, you know, there was a time when you watched movies and they were good movies. They were good movies. You know, one of my, like, some of my favorite movies are bad movies, but they're good movies. Yeah, and here's what I mean. You know, the Predator. Is that a work of artistry? Hell no. But it's a great movie to watch. It's an old knuckle-dragging caveman movie with lots of firing weapons into the jungle and stuff like that. Here's the bottom line. It wasn't that much of a political. Yeah, was there some propaganda in it? Fair enough. But now it seems like every movie is like that. It's like, okay, we got to get an ex-IDF soldier or, you know, something like that in it. And then, of course, you know, you got to do the usual. We got to have one you know, black female, one indigenous person, one handicapped person, you know what I mean? It's all of the movies now. Yeah, I guess I complain about it every week because it drives me buggy. But all of this, every single movie now is some kind of a political statement with no concern whatsoever for making a good movie. And the fact that they chose this, well, I guess she played this movie, I'll call her this witch. She played a witch, so I'll refer to her last movie. They chose this witch who can't act, who has no talent, and say, we're going to put her in a movie. That in itself, I don't care what the movie's about. That's a political statement that I don't choose to take part of, and I hope people are in front of the movie theaters when it comes out.
Yeah. No, if it comes out, maybe they're shutting this thing down enough where they're going to have to they have to recast. That happens. We've seen that happen. Hey, this isn't working out, and we've seen it with A-listers before. They've had to switch them out. So, maybe that'll happen. That'd be great. But like you said, if it does, come out the way it is, then yeah, there should be a massive protest on this thing. And it's gonna lose a ton of money, and it should. And again, like this is Hollywood's little sweetheart. But Hollywood is having to reassess itself overall right now. It's really going to have to do some soul searching. Regardless of Trump and his tariff threat, Hollywood is in trouble. They are in extreme trouble right now. And the Zionist approach to protecting those actors and then punishing those that stand up to it, like we've talked about, the Susan Sarandons that have lost their affiliation with CAA, we call it CIAA, those type of making examples of people who have been on the right side of things. Hollywood's at a place where it really needs to do some soul searching. And I think it knows that the DEI thing isn't working. And it's not just, by the way, it's not just in films. The TV shows have been doing this stuff too. It's pretty disgusting to see perfectly good ideas that could have been great films or great TV shows turned into crap because you have to check these boxes. So I'm with you on that, Garland. Netflix is screwing up. They're screwing up the Black Mirror series right now. We just saw some of the new episodes. I mean, some of them are pretty good, but you're just like, man, this thing used to be a great series that was not affiliated with Netflix. Netflix, I think, took it on a few years back, and
it's done.
It's done. I mean, okay, look, every once in a while you get a good little nugget, but overall, you're just like, what? You guys are just checking boxes. Asian actress, Black actress, this, switch out this, literally, like, you're not doing the story the way the story was intended to do. And if it was done independently, it would have been a lot more powerful. So these are we still get little disappointments because we would hope, can you just get this one thing right? No, they're not getting it right. They're getting it all wrong.
Well, and these things are inextricably linked. Let me tell you why. Because for a while, I got to say this, and I hope I don't harp on this too much, but everybody got their pet peeves, but there's actually some depth to this anger that I have. Fury, dare I say. For some reason, I would watch, whatever. You see the latest chewing gum advertisement. There's a Native American person, a Muslim person, a Black female, a gay person. You're right. Every single one. Every movie is a Benetton advertisement. Every show, everything, right? And every movie, they've got to reverse the genders where the women are the tough, strong leaders and the men are like gay or trans or something, and they're very, very feminine, right? And that I don't get. Everyone, what they got to do now is they make the women as masculine as possible and the men as feminine as possible, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, there could be a movie like that. I don't give a crap, but all of them. So I watched that and I'm like, okay, you're like virtue signaling. We are really good people because we make sure that minorities and women and all people are given an opportunity. It's a way of saying we're good. We're virtuous. We're moral. How do you know that? Just look at the screen. All people should have an opportunity. And we're doing that. Aren't we virtuous? Aren't we good? Aren't we wonderful? And I look at that and I realize why it infuriates me and why I hate it so bad.
Yeah. No,
because you're I'll just give the answer why I hate it so bad. Because you're literally supporting a genocide. And you're literally giving money to goose-stepping Nazis. And it's almost like you got to do something to make up for it. And I'm like, how in the hell can I believe that you're moral because you got a rainbow of people on every freaking movie when you're literally supporting Nazis and a genocide and never saw a war you didn't like? But I'm supposed to believe you're good because you got an Asian guy, a Black guy, and a gay female at the lead of every movie. It just disgusts me.
It's pretty disgusting. It's like the Cory Booker 25-hour speech about equality and diversity and progressiveness, deliberately leaving out Palestine the entire time. And it's like, this is the kind of, it's so disgusting because you're like, you know why it's happening. You know why they're doing it. And the fact, and I bring up Cory Booker because that you can talk on and babble on and on for 25 hours means that you're so good at it that it's so disgusting because you can go another 25 hours and leave out Palestine, leave out a genocide on purpose. as exactly what you're saying, Garland, as a tool to be like checking boxes. We are good people, and so many people fall for this. They go, "Oh, what a good person!" And this movie I just watched is they're good people making this. I feel so good. You know how bad it looks when you try to do a remake of an old 1940s film, or like I'm just saying, like let's say let's switch the genders. Let's switch the genders on Casablanca. Let's switch. What are you doing? That would never happen. Let's switch the races in this film. Let's switch. So stop trying to check boxes for us. At some point, there's enough of us that are gonna see through it and go, that's not genuine. It's not sincere, and you are not respecting your audience because you think that you just check a box and we're gonna feel something. Well, we're done feeling something for you. We're gonna start feeling something against you and say enough of this stuff.
Exactly. Speaking of which, let's go down the road of Gal Gadot's previous transgressions. Bibi Netanyahu. So apparently, I want to get your thoughts on it. There is all of these rumors, loud rumors of Trump and Netanyahu having a breakup. Now, I don't like to take anything for granted, right? It's possible that Trump's ego could cause that, right? I'm not going to rule that out. It's also possible that it's a fraud. And this is like, well, we got to separate ourselves from him because nobody likes him and people around, and it's making us look bad. So it could very well be. We can't underestimate Trump's ego and rule out that it ain't possible that they're having an issue. But the other side of it is it could be a game. People have different thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on the alleged breakup of Trump and Netanyahu?
We're watching this very intently, Garland, and I'm with you. We have to be skeptical, but we can be hopeful that there might be something uniquely different happening right now because of Trump's ego. I think that might be the opportunity to make a difference with the Zionist control of this administration, even if it's just slightly. This could be a situation when we're dealing with it's a war between the I guess you would say the pro Israel lobbyists versus just the pro Israel lobbyists. So you have to look at it maybe from that level, that maybe we can just have one little win here, or one step forward on this, just one little step. And that's because Trump cares about his legacy. He cares about his image. And and he's not stupid. He sees the memes. He sees when he's pulling out the chair for Netanyahu. It's saying make Israel great again. He sees that. You don't think he sees that? He doesn't like that. Now, look, he's been tolerant of that. And by the way, I want to remind people, we've heard tapes of him. He knows. He goes, from a few years ago, he's talking about Israel doesn't want a deal. Palestine wants a deal. Israel doesn't. He knows this stuff. So he's been tolerating it. Now, look, we can talk all day about his moral compass and lack of, and I don't think this has anything to do with that. He have no moral compass. This is, again, it's about ego. So when he sees that his team has been infiltrated, we know this for a fact, that Mike Waltz is an actual spy for Netanyahu. He was the one. I'm going to be very clear. So people don't know this. Why did that leak happen? That signal leak. It was Mike Waltz. It was deliberate. It wasn't an accident. The signal leak was directed by Netanyahu. And now the truth has come out. Trump got rid of him, but he didn't really get rid of him. He just reassigned him. But the fact that he's like, wait a minute, you're infiltrating my team. You're kind of mocking me behind my back. You mock our country behind our back. At some point, he's like, I'm not gonna tolerate this. So the word right now that he's cutting off communication, I'm kind of with you. I'm like, is this just theater? Is it really happening? But apparently he's not taking calls right now from some of his Zionist handlers. Miriam Allison is not taking a call right now. It's very interesting to hear a report like that. It could just be a rumor, but we need to hear directly from Trump about this. I want to know that, is this a rumor about the declaring that Palestine is a state? Is that going to actually happen? I don't know if that part's going to happen. That might be a little overextending our optimism on that one.
Right.
But this part's important, Garland. The Western media is starting to be a little more vocal about this now. I don't know if it has anything to do with the timing of this apparent breakup, but we're hearing more reports coming out that we've never heard before from Western outlets, from like Financial Times, from The Economist, the Independent, the Guardian, they're all reporting right now that the West is not doing a good job of being on the right side of things, and they're actually using the word genocide. And we're seeing it coming out of these publications, which we've never seen before. Is it related? It could be. So, from my point of view, I'm kind of with you on like let's just not celebrate too soon, but we could have a little win here based on Trump's ego and saying, I want to conduct a Middle East policy on behalf of the U.S. Make America great again. I'm not going to conduct this on behalf of Israel. We'll see how far it goes.
Well, here's the other part too, and that is it's been a while that this thing's going on, and this has not worked out well for the collective West. It's not out of the question that they are starting to look at things and saying, Netanyahu's a problem for us. Not that they're any less anti-Zionist or anything, but, they're not above casting aside, an anchor that's weighing them down. So if they all make a decision and say, look, this ain't working out well for us, we got to do something different, right? And they decide, and they love a good scapegoat. Nothing better than a scapegoat for these people, right? And if they decide, of course, genocide's our favorite thing to do. We'd rather do genocide than anything else. That's what we love to do. But we didn't want it so vocal out. We need a scapegoat. What do you think? And they all look at Netanyahu at the same time. It's that guy. So in the same way that I say, one of these days, Zelensky, I think, is going to find that out. I do believe that one of these days, Zelensky's going to find out that he's the odd man out, that he's the scapegoat. When things go bad for him, they're not going to say we made errors, we made bad decisions or whatever than that. It's always a person that you have to hate. And when they need a scapegoat, it could be that they're moving in the direction. Now, as I said, it could be all a fraud, but it could be that they decided it's time to scapegoat and get out of this thing. And maybe Netanyahu just happens to be a convenient scapegoat. It wouldn't surprise me if they scapegoated him and walked out. I don't know. All of this could be wrong. It's all speculation, but who knows?
The scapegoat theory makes sense because we're so used to seeing it be so successful in the past. We see it happen. They're so good at making the Western people believe that a system is only corrupt because of a bad apple. Get rid of the bad apple and things will go back to normal. We see that's how they've treated Trump this whole time. That was the whole Trump derangement syndrome was based on that logic. That get the bad apple. We've never seen somebody like this ever. What do you mean we've never seen it? They're all like, what are you talking about? The guy's louder than the last guy, but come on. Like what? It's the same thing. No. Get rid of this and then everything's cool. We see it all the time. We saw it. I mean, man, I can think of a ton of examples of this being so successful. I mean, look at Black Lives Matter. Look at Derek Chauvin. We locked him up. We've ended police brutality. It's over. It's like the one guy that he just had that choke that he choked out the guy, George Floyd, and now he's in jail. It's over. We solved it. Right. So these are tactics that have been very successful. So I'm kind of saying I'm kind of on feeling you right now. You're saying if Netanyahu becomes the scapegoat, then you can get the public sentiment back to things are back to normal. Israel's back to the way it's supposed to function. When we weren't paying attention before, everything was on the up and up. We just got rid of the bad apple.
And then they'll all be opposed to genocide now, and we're sorry. And if only he hadn't misled us, and he lied to us, and he led us down a dark alley. But he's the bad guy. He's out of the way, and so you can come back and vote for the Democratic Party again in the midterms. You know what I mean? All of that business about genocide. Let's put that behind us. It's, friends have differences. Come back and vote in the midterm. You know what I mean? And of course, Trump, it benefits him because there are those in his MAGA base. Hey, what are you doing? Let me ask you that. Speaking of which, Iran. One question. Do you think the U.S. will or will not attack Iran? And do you have any comments on the whole idea of the concept of the negotiations and all that?
This could be directly related to the Netanyahu situation. Trump looked like, at least the last couple of weeks, there was some signs that he's taking this thing very seriously, and we might be coming to a deal. There might be to a place where I'm on the side of that. I believe Trump does not want this war with Iran. He's going to get the war with Iran if he stays aligned with Netanyahu, because Netanyahu has been salivating over this for years and years. Like, this is his big, like, like he's wanted this so badly. And I think Trump suspects that. So I think that we have to be optimistic here, cautiously optimistic, that I think that it's part of the separation of Trump and Netanyahu that's going to allow this thing to not go the distance. But we know very well that the warmongers of the West have wanted this war. Everybody's been talking about this since John McCain. I mean, everybody, they were war, right? Bomb Iran. They've all wanted it. But if anything, again, this might be a Trump ego situation again. But I do think that if he can focus in on this art of the deal approach, we might be okay here. I don't know. We're playing with fire again. We're playing with World War III on so many fronts. I mean, over the last few years, so many, we're this close, but we haven't crossed that line yet. So I'm hoping this deal goes through. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'll put it like this: I don't think that Trump can get a deal because he heads an empire that's, as I think Sergei Lavrov put it, like agreement incapable. Because, well, here's the issue every single time. The U.S. can't ever relax sanctions on anybody.
Yeah.
So, I can see what's happening. Iran, let's say they make a deal. Iran's going to say, fair enough, but last time you didn't go along with it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, and you're going to relax sanctions, right? Yes. Okay. You relax the sanctions that in order to execute the deal. You know what I mean? It's like a contract to execute the contract in consideration for $100,000. I'll do this. You have to provide the consideration. Here's your $100,000. I'll do it. You don't give me $100,000. You haven't executed your part of the deal, so we don't have a deal, right? Okay. If I'm Iran, and I suspect they'll do this, they're going to say, last time you didn't relax the sanctions. Obama didn't do it. In order to, and we got a deal. Let's just say we get one. We probably won't, but let's just say we do.
Okay.
I would imagine Iran would say this time, in order to execute the deal, the sanctions must be relaxed first. And as soon as the sanctions are relaxed, all kinds of inspectors can come in. This will go out, that'll go, everything in there happens. But in order to execute the deal, you got to put your right foot forward. Last time we did, and you didn't. And the U.S. can't and won't. And they'll say, okay. And then Trump will say, let's do that in Congress. No, the whole inside, but no, we can't do that. And he'll say, but I got a deal. And I told him in order to do that, we had to relax. No, you tell them to do it first, and then because we ain't going to do it. So my point is, talking to a lot of military experts, what they say is the United States does not have the conventional capacity to attack Iran successfully without, or go to war with Iran without taking massive, unthinkable pain in return. And as you said, I don't think Trump wants a big war. Trump will do a lot. He'll bomb the Houthis or something like that until they kick his ass and run him out of the Red Sea like they did. And then he'll declare victory. We won. See you later. We're going to tariff China until they scream. And then they go talk to China, and he comes back. Yeah, we won. China, dropped the tariffs, and let's go back to business. He'll declare victory. But this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference with Iran. He can't declare a victory in this case. The other ones, he can spin one. I mean, even the Victory Day. We're going to get into Victory Day for the U.S. while they're celebrating the real Victory Day in Moscow. I mean, so you're right. He always finds the spin. But in this case, I do think, yeah, this is a unique situation where he can't screw this one up, or you're not going to be able to spin this one.
Well, one thing I'll say about Trump, I always say this: you can't back him into a corner because he don't care. I mean, hey, Trump, you said this. I don't remember saying that. He'll just say that. Hey, Trump, you said so-and-so yesterday. Me said that. I don't remember saying that. Who cares? So there's nowhere that Trump rhetorically can be backed into a corner, because he'll just say, I've never said that. What are you talking? We won. It's all over. Let's move on. We got other things to do. He don't really give a crap. So that is a superpower of Trump's. The fact that he really is ambivalent about reality. He'll just say whatever the hell. So anybody else, I'd say, can't get out of it except Trump. Because if they say, well, you didn't get a deal with Iran, he'd say, sure, I got a deal. They capitulated. They gave us everything we wanted. What are you talking about? Iran who? There's no such country named Iran. What the hell are you talking about? Let's move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With Trump, it doesn't matter. It's actually kind of funny if you think about it.
It is. I mean, remember, he's a game show host. He's a guy. He's a reality star. He knows how to get that that great line, that one-liner out there, and make everyone feel good. So he knows what he's doing. But I mean, yeah, you're playing with fire, literally playing with fire when in the Iran situation. But every president has been doing that in our lifetimes. Like this is like, here we are. It's not because of Trump. Trump is just the next guy up. You're next up to bat. What are you going to do? That's it.
Yep, I like the way I can't think of her name that I always have on there. Doctor, she's of Indian descent. She's really, really brilliant. But what she always says is, Trump is not the problem. Trump is a symptom of the problem.
Yeah,
he is a symptom of the issue that's going on. Right. All right. Here's another big one. RFK Jr. Ma ha ha ha, right? Okay, I'm gonna do lots of things, and I ain't gonna say he hasn't done a few things here and there. Fair enough. You got to give credit where credit is due. He said a lot. I don't know how much he's done, but he said a few things. These are some things I don't agree with. I don't think he's lived up to the hype that we expected. But what the hell's up with this CIA puppet? Oh, what's her name? Casey Means.
Yeah.
For Surgeon General. There's a lot of Maha people and just plain old people who are looking at Casey Means saying, perhaps that's not the best choice. Your thoughts on her and her connections to the CIA, as it were.
Sure. Look, so this one sticks out a little more significantly, Garland, because of the pushback we're hearing and the kind of the revealing moments. Particularly, and I'll get to this part in a moment. The Nicole Shanahan, as you guys know, the former VP pick for RFK Jr. before he got out of the race, and then teamed up and basically pushed the Maha movement into the Trump MAGA group, and then helped basically elevated him to his second term. So Nicole Shanahan, she hadn't been really vocal about this until now, and this is the big reveal on this. So let's be clear. RFK Jr. has done some stuff here and there. We could say he's thrown us some breadcrumbs. We fully believe, at least from us doing our show here in LA and following the Maha movement this whole time, that he doesn't have the ability to do more than what he's doing. He's not making these decisions. He has handlers. We've always known he's had handlers. It just how do we know if he's not telling us? We have to kind of figure out ourselves. Well, Nicole Shanahan is telling us. So here's what happened. So we have Casey Means being the nomination for Surgeon General, and Trump posts this out, and we already saw a paper trail on her and her brother Callie, who have both had this kind of history of being about good health, talking about health, but when it comes to vaccines, they've both been very limited in the things that they're allowed to say or are designed, let's just say designed to say or not say, and neither of these siblings have ever once come out publicly and said we need to get the mRNA off the shelves. They won't do it. They've been confronted about it. But Nicole Shanahan says this. She puts out this tweet. She says it's very, very strange to her that RFK Jr. Allowed this Senate this confirmation or for Trump to put this nomination forward. The reason is that she was promised that neither of these siblings, neither of the Means siblings, would have anything to do with the HHS in this administration. She was promised directly, and so she says publicly, either RFK lied to me clearly, or he has somebody regularly that is making him do this, and that she is saying she knows he does. That he has a handler that is making these decisions for him. And she says, in parentheses, in the tweet, it's not President Trump. There's someone else that's making this happen. And then she ends the tweet with saying, these siblings have been extremely artificial and aggressive about certain things that don't make them seem authentic. I'm very suspicious of both of them. And that they might be, and this is the kicker, Garland, almost like they were bred and raised Manchurian assets. That's where we're at. And I go back and look to find any sign that either of these two are talking about the actual thing that people want RFK Jr. in there to do, and that is get mRNA off the shelves. Go get to the bottom of the vaccine situation. But apparently he's not allowed to do any of that. That is off the table. We won't see any of that. Anybody who still believes that something's going to happen in that department, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's because here's the bottom line. I, there just wasn't enough research done on it. You know, they just brought it in and said, this is what we're going to go with. There should have been 10 years of research on that. You know what I mean? And normally there would have been, but they came in and Operation Warp Speed, which oddly started like 3 months before the pandemic. I always found that weird that Operation Warp Speed, that the pandemic supposedly, allegedly started around the first week of November. But September 19th, Operation Warp Speed started with a executive order from Trump. So why the hell would you start an Operation Warp Speed 3 months before the pandemic? It's almost like they had a premonition. But at any rate, yes, well, see, here's the thing about it. Think about two things: how much money they made off of it, and really two, how much money they made off of it, the level of liability. You know, because even though you say somebody can't be sued, right? I don't think that applies to fraud, right? You know, I can be held, you can't sue me for whatever. But I think when it comes to fraud, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look into other things are written, but oftentimes you can't get around fraud. But the bottom line is the level of accountability. If it's found that they, you know, even going up to the government, who said you can do this? And you can use mRNA and you don't have to test for the normal amount of time, because they didn't test for the normal amount of time and the normal requirement for tests. Who gave that opening, you know, and said it was okay if it comes out through time that these things were maybe dangerous and shouldn't have been used. Not saying that we know that they're safe and effective, and that everybody should get their daily booster, but just for, YouTube, I want YouTube to know daily boosters are the only way to go. The problem with boosters is we don't do enough of them. We need to improve. We need to, mandate the number of boosters for everybody on a daily basis. But my point is the amount of money that's been made, the amount of liability for a lot of people, including politicians, and the potential amount of money that can still be made from these things.
Yeah.
Because they're like saying, we'll give you one shot and it will tell your body to make the antibodies for 12 different diseases, all mRNA. Well, you haven't done enough tests for the first one.
Yeah. So this MAHA movement is definitely about protecting the pharma companies. That's where we're at now. So the infiltration is successful in the sense that because there's these other talking points that are coming to the forefront, and these are good. These aren't like dishonest talking points. They're the distraction. They're trying to spin the movement now as we have to be healthier. If we are healthy now, again, of course we have to be healthier. That's all. This is all true. But this idea, this insinuation that if we're healthier, we can survive these shots. If we're healthier, we won't have problems with what pharma is going to be injecting into us into the future. So the focus of MAHA is about protecting those pharma companies while they educate us, and that's what this Casey and Callie Means have been so good at, is articulating daily health and how we have to look at the foods and look at the things, and we talk about these things. So they're very good at this stuff. And then here's RFK talking about we have to get to the bottom of these things, but it's about the health. It's about health. It's about our food. And these are great topics to be talking about, but it's all about protecting pharma because, like you said, Garland, the fact is you can sue. I think you can. I'm not an attorney, but you can sue if it's fraud involved, and they know that. So they have to double down on protecting big pharma interests. And a reminder that RFK Jr. was only confirmed in the Senate hearings because he conceded to things behind the scenes with the people that were not going to vote for him. That's the only reason. So he went in there with his limbs cut off. That's how he started his job on day one.
Yeah. And, the question becomes this, if somebody called tomorrow and said, Matt Weinglass, we got a position for you in the Trump administration being whatever, fill in the blank. I think there becomes a question where you ask yourself, how much am I willing to compromise? You know what I mean? If you said, well, I can do good if I get in there. And they said, oh, but you got to understand this whole COVID booster thing. Yeah, you got to keep quiet about that. And maybe they don't even tell you that at first. They say, come on in, you'll do a great job. And you come in, and after a month or two, they say, hey, we have a meeting with you. yeah, look, you don't have to say nay and you don't have to say yay. You're just not going to talk about COVID boosters. You're not going to talk about the origins of COVID. You're not going to talk about this. You're not going to talk about that. And you're sitting there saying, man, I think I need to talk about those things. I think to some point, maybe I'm just guessing, there comes a point when you got to ask yourself, how much am I willing to compromise of what I truly believe in to keep this position? I mean, that's the way I see it.
Yeah. No, this is an ethical question. It's a question about our moral compass. And we hope that our leaders, the people that we believe in, we've been down this road so many times, believing that Bernie was for us, believing that RFK Jr. had a little more of just gravitas than Bernie, and he was going to stick it to that Democratic Party. We were still hopeful, but at the end of the day, it is a question of how far you're willing to compromise. And make no mistake about it, if you have integrity and you get pulled into a meeting like that, like you said, whether it's at the beginning, before they confirm you, or whether it's a few weeks in or whatever, or on day one, hey, welcome to the team. Come in this room, shut the door behind you. We have to talk about something. Whenever it happens, if you are willing to take that compromise because you think, at least I can get this one thing done, I will concede on something that I believe in generally, but I will concede on it in order to get this one thing done, then you have officially been compromised. If you don't take that, if you say, no, I will stand firm. This is why the people wanted me. This is why I'm here right now. If you stand firm, you're out the door. And we've seen this time and time again. Look at the previous people. And this is, again, like I get, like, people get excited in the Maha movement. They go, oh, look, we got this person. We got Casey Means in, it's Surgeon General. Yay. Look at the people who got switched out. Those are the people that did not compromise when they were brought into the room. People like Dr. Dave Weldon. Dr. Dave Weldon was tossed aside. Why? Because he stuck by his concerns of 20 years of vaccine safety that he wanted to look into, and he was switched out. There's a guy that had conviction. That's why he's not on the Maha team. That's why he's not on the Trump team right now. So we have to look at that. If you've made it through, like RFK Jr., you have definitely, you've made the compromise. You've had to. It's the only way you're in. So this is the conundrum we live in today's political arena, and it's just something we as citizens and voters, we just have to understand this and know that if anything's going to change, we have to do it from the outside in. We can't Trojan horse them anymore. It's not going to work. We can't do it. They capture our everybody inside the horse. They're captured. They're not there to take down the system. We have to take it from the outside in. That's the only way.
Well, there's a term I like to use, and I've used it oftentimes, like my one radio show in DC, and I'll talk about it with people like the Democrats, and I always use this term, deal breakers. We all got to have deal breakers. And some people call them boundaries or whatever, right? But I like to say deal breakers, where if somebody says you can have this or you can do this or whatever the case may be, whatever opportunity sits there for you, or if somebody says you should vote for the Democrats or the Republicans, whatever, right? And I always like this, you got to have a deal breaker. Yeah. You don't even exist. And what I'll say, they'll be like, well, the Republicans this, but the Democrats, I'll say, as far as I'm concerned, genocide's a deal breaker.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't commit genocide and then ask for my vote. Those two things. No, that's a deal breaker. All of the Trumps or this, the Republicans, we need to do this for no. If you commit genocide, the answer is no. You got to have a deal breaker. I always say guy walks into bars. He's the most beautiful woman, young, single guy. That's the woman of my dreams. And they talk. And at some point, she tells him something. Well, everything's perfect. He says, by the way, every couple months I may kidnap a family of 4 and kill them with a chainsaw. I'm a chainsaw massacre person. But other than that, I'm great. And he'll look at her and say, yeah, I think I probably can't do that. It's a deal breaker. Now, it depends on how good she looks. Yeah, he might say, all right, we'll try it for a while. I can't say that when I was 25, what decision I would have made, depending on what she looked like. I'm just saying maybe I wasn't as smart as I should have been. But at later years, I realized something. Everybody's got to have a damn deal breaker. That's all we're talking about. I don't care what the opportunities are. And if you're in there and you're the head of HHS or anything else, I think we're speculating what happens. We don't know that this happened with RFK Jr. This is all speculation. So I'm not condemning him saying this happened. But I think you have to have somewhere where you say, I'd love to be in this position, but I can't do this. This is not what I believe in. I'm moving on. That you put it to the people you work for. Look, if this is the requirement, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. Well, no, we do know that he took concessions. I mean, that's how the Senate hearings. There was the one vote to put it over, and it's publicly saying, no, yeah, we had to take him in the back room and make these concessions, and that's it. And now we're all in agreement, and we're going to go ahead and confirm him. So we know that this. I mean, yeah, we're not actually in the room, so we don't know the details of the language, but we do know that these are the meetings that occur. And you mentioned the Israel thing. This, Garland, this has always got to be a deal breaker for us. But we know anybody who makes it through is okay with that. And it takes to you being on the outside. Once you're out and you're a former congressman or former senator, then you can kind of be honest about it. And then we see that. So we just saw Matt Gaetz do this. This was pretty incredible that he's, as a former congressman, he's able to go on a podcast. This just happened, and he says, yeah, he was asked this question. If you want to get into government, do you have to support Israel? And he's saying, yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, you have to do it. And then he says, I've never actually been asked that question till right now by this young podcaster, asking him straight up, what if I want to get into government, do I have to support Israel? Yeah, you kind of do. So it shows you that that's the compromise. That's the deal, as you would say, deal breaker, Garland, and you would get up and walk out. I would get up and walk out. Nobody else anybody that's in Congress right now has not gotten up and walk out. That's the I think that is the hard reality that we have to fully process right now. That includes Bernie, that includes AOC, it includes every single one of them, even to a degree, Thomas Massey, and even the ones that, you have, to a little degree, they have to at least tolerate it. They might be allowed to say things about it, which is good to speak up, but all in all, they're going to show you the door. If you are firm on that thing that you said that this is my deal breaker, then show me the door. That's it. I'm out. And then that's it. That's the end of your political career.
Yeah, it's what's a deal breaker for you is also a deal breaker for them, for the system. You know what I mean? And I will guarantee you this. Man, there's a whole lot of Pfizer and money coming in, and these other coming into these various senators and stuff like that. I would imagine they getting calls. Hey, you need to talk to this guy. Find out before you vote for him. We give you X amount a year, and we do this. We provide all kinds of things for you, free airplanes and chateaus in Monaco, and all of these things that under the table that we provide for you. Blah 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 blah. We need a favor. Talk to this guy, find out if he's good on this. We can put up with this. He can go this far, but he can't go any further than that. And if he's willing to do that, otherwise than that, we expect you to make sure that he doesn't get through. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. You know what it comes down to? The corporate capture of government. I don't even view those people in Congress voting as responsible individual entities. I view them as captured agents of various corporate concerns.
Yeah, that's what they are. 100%. These aren't. So our system that we were taught in school, when we're taught about the pillars of government and how it works, and your constituents are the ones that vote you in, you have to work for them. All of those were all lies. That's not how it works. They are corporate entities. They do not work for their constituents. They work on behest of their handlers. Their handlers are the people that they signed up for and they agreed to in those meetings. We keep talking about those compromise meetings where they said these are the people you have to impress, you have to defend, you have to protect. You have to protect these companies. Let them thrive while your people are hurt from that. And we'll help you spin it. Don't worry, the media will get your back. They'll make sure they cover your ass and confuse your constituents and let them think that you're just AOC. Put on that tax service dress and you'll be good. And all these different tactics. We have a system in place to protect you, protect that lie, and we're going to continue to teach the children in school about how our government works. We're going to continue to lie to them about the 3 pillars of government and that 4th pillar of the press, the free press that asks the right questions and holds them all accountable. All of those are lies. It's not true, but we're going to continue to lie because we have the backing to do it. So you're good. You'll be fine.
Well, the funny thing is, when she had on that tax the rich dress, her date or whatever or accomplice that night was one of the member of the. You familiar with the Seagrams? family. They're, a super wealthy arch Zionist,
Yeah.
Mossad connection, very closely connected to Jeffrey Epstein's, what would you call it? Economic, you know, base and all that kind of stuff. So she's wearing Tax the Rich with this billionaire Zionist guy as her date. It's obvious. He probably gave her the dress. He's probably like, look, we need you to, you're doing a good job here, flying the flag for controlled opposition. We've got a dress and it says tax the rich. It has been cleared by my dad. I just got off the phone with Netanyahu. He says he's going to sign it when it comes back. And so wear this dress and we'll all be happy. And then off she goes with her tax the rich dress. And we're like, and then all of these people, yeah, AOC stand up for the little person because she wore a dress that said tax the rich. Well, really? How's she going to vote when it comes time to tax the rich? How's it going to vote when it comes to Congress and genocide and all these other things?
It's they got us all confused that these moments, these emotional moments, these celebrational moments are wins. They're not wins. It's all theater. It's all theater. We got to get smarter. American people get smarter about what is actually affects us. Is the vote is what affects us. When they go in and vote against you, that's what affects us. When they vote for genocide, that's what affects us. When they all vote for the largest upward transfer of wealth in human history, the CARES Act back in 2020. But AOC and Bernie gave a great speech about how bad it was. Yeah, but then they voted for it. You have to look at the voting, not the words, not what's coming out of their mouth, not what's written on a dress. Look at the actions. We have to understand it's all about the actions, not the words, because they're handpicked for these jobs because they're great at words. That's the point. They're great performers. They know how to get into your emotional core and make you go, yeah, we're doing something. Yeah, power to the people. Fight the oligarchy. No, we're not fighting anything. We're protecting the oligarchy and tricking you with emotion. So we have to stop falling for that. The hope and change and the joy and all that. It's all fabricated. It's all artificial. What's real is the votes that go on out of the House and Senate floor and into actual action in our foreign policy action, which is about taking down every other country we want and invading and occupying and just showing our American dominance around the world. That's what our real policy is, and we need to wake up to that and stand up to that. That's the thing. So I think the people are waking up little by little, and we have to keep having these conversations. Garland, for sure.
Yes, it's time to roll. But I'll just say this: the more I look into AOC's background, it's kind of like Obama. The more you look into your background, you're like, it's kind of obvious his mom was CIA. What the hell? You know what I mean? And the more you start looking into AOC's background, the more you're like, is it possible that, there could be some, there's some system puppetry afoot here. Looks almost too good to be true. And you look at it and they paint her as this waitress with holes in her shoes, and it just story sounds. But and look at her college back.
Bartender. They had to change the story to bartender. Remember, they did a little upgrade. That was a better story.
I don't know about old AOC. AOCIA. How we go with that? Yeah. All right, dude. Well, tell everybody where they can find you.
The Homeless Left. We're on Rumble. You guys, we've been doing our show every Tuesdays, Thursdays, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. You can find us on YouTube. We had to start a new YouTube channel because they terminated our last one. So you can find us. It's THL on YouTube. So that's at THL Presents. You can find us there. And we always cover the challenging the war machine, Israel-U.S. war machine, challenging big pharma on a regular basis, and the censorship industrial complex. So that's what we have to keep the fight going every single day.
All right, keep up the good work. I enjoy having you every week, and of course, my people, everybody in the chat just loves you, Matt. Everyone, a couple of things. Don't forget, follow me on Rockfin, follow me on Rumble, just in case. God only knows what happens on YouTube, but follow me on Rockfin and Rumble. And even at that, sometimes every now and then they'll censor one of my videos, and people can still go to Rumble and Rockfin and find it. So that's great if you can afford it. Patreon or buy me a coffee or something. And by the way, you'll see my P.O. box. I got a bunch of letters from people that I got to read. If you want to send me a letter, a book, a donation, anything you want to send, the P.O. box now is scrolling across the bottom. So I check my P.O. box, and I'm happy to get a lot of letters. letters and read them from various people. And I'm actually going to send letters back to some of them. So you might get a letter back from me. And thanks a lot, Matt. And we will be back next week. Thank you, everybody. We're out.